Year! Welcome to 2020, and with it, we are all done celebrating our Christmas, Hanukkah, however your family celebrates, and we've made it into 2020, hence the glasses, and now I get to start bringing you some amazing stories. So our very first story for this year is going to be Earl the Squirrel by Dan Freeman. So sit down, grab a snack, and let's get started with the story. Early one autumn morning, a mother gray squirrel sat talking to her young son, Earl. "It's high time you went out and learned how to find acorns on your own," she said. But Earl didn't know the first thing about finding acorns. So away he sailed to visit his friend, Jill. "Good morning, Earl," said Jill. "Here is an acorn I've saved for you." Earl was pleased to have found such a big acorn so quickly. His mother would be happy. He twitched and twirled his tail, which was his way of saying, "Thank you very much." "And here's a nutcracker to help you open it," added Jill. Earl scampered home, eager to show his mother what he had found. But when she saw him, she said, "Earl, come in here this instant. I want to speak to you." "Who ever heard of a squirrel needing a nutcracker? Why, it's absurd," his mother scolded. "You got it from Jill, didn't you? I bet she gave you the acorn too. Well, that girl's making you into the most spoiled squirrel in the world. Now take that nutcracker right back." "You're back so quickly, and you didn't want the nutcracker? Well, never mind. I have an extra special present for you." And she tied a beautiful red scarf neatly around Earl's furry neck. "I really made it for my doll," she said, "but he wanted you to have it." How proud Earl was of his scarlet scarf. Back home he sailed with his tail all unfurled. But when his mother saw the scarf, she said, "Earl, come in here this instant. I want to speak to you." "Who ever heard of any of us needing something around our necks to keep us warm?" his mother fussed. "Now that girl has done it. You are the most spoiled squirrel in the world." Earl knew his mother was right. That night after supper, he tied his scarf into the shape of a sack. While his mother slept, out he crept. Earl wanted to show her that he could find an acorn on his own. All night long, Earl searched in the bright moonlight, under rocks, up in trees, and inside empty old mole holes, without finding one single solitary acorn anywhere. By morning, Earl was very tired. In fact, he was all worn out. His ears were getting cold. He tied the scarf around his head. "That's better," he said to himself. "Maybe that's an old squirrel hole for me to sleep in," thought Earl. But look who was inside. "Oh, excuse me," said Earl. "I didn't know you lived in here."
"Who did you think lived here?"
hooted the great horned owl loudly.
"And whoever saw a squirrel wearing a scarf?"
"My friend Jill gave it to me," Earl said proudly. "By the way, could you tell me where I might find an acorn?"
"An acorn?"
hooted the great horned owl.
"Why, certainly. There's a giant oak tree right over there full of acorns, but I wouldn't go anywhere near it if I were a squirrel wearing a scarlet scarf. Conrad the bull would not like it one bit. You know what bulls do when they see red. they get awfully mad.
But Earl didn't hear a word the owl had said about the bull because he was already halfway over to the tree. And look who was snoozing there so peacefully. Conrad. Earl hopped up on top of the bull's burly back. He didn't see Conrad's long, sharp horns. All he saw were acorns galore.
Who is that tickling my shoulder?
The big bull smoldered. Earl didn't see Conrad's nose. All he saw was a great way to reach the acorns. And all Conrad saw was Earl's scarf. Just then, Conrad got awfully mad. With one flying leap, Earl escaped up into the tree, but his scarf had come untied. It slipped off his neck and it dropped. Quick as a flash, Earl reached down and snatched his scarf. "Don't you tear my beautiful present," he shouted. Conrad snorted and charged with all his might. He charged right into the tree, and his horns got stuck. He pulled and yanked until he shook poor Earl out of the tree, along with hundreds of acorns. Bonk! One fell right on top of his head. "Thank you, Mr. Bull," said Earl politely. "I didn't mean to put you to all this trouble. I needed only one acorn, but I guess I'll take two. Tomorrow, I'll be back for more." After tying 2 acorns in his scarf sack, Earl threw it over his shoulder and hurried back home as fast as he could scamper. Conrad grunted and groaned until at last, with a powerful yank, he freed his horn from the tree. Down the hill he reeled head over hoofs until he was out of sight. When Earl arrived home, he presented one of his acorns to his mother. She saw it and said, "Earl, come in here this instant. I want to speak to you." Once inside, his mother took a bite of her ripe acorn. My, this is the most delicious acorn I've ever tasted. How did you find it?" "Oh, my lucky scarf helped me," said Earl happily. After his mother finished her acorn, he went to pay Jill a visit. On the windowsill, sitting very still, was Jill's doll. After taking out the acorn, Earl tied his scarf around the doll's neck. "Here, sir. I don't think I need this anymore." Then Earl gave his tail an extra twirl, and before he swept away, he left the acorn for Jill. The next night, the moon was full, and Earl returned to the giant oak tree. Thanks to Conrad, there were plenty of acorns scattered on the ground for tomorrow. But tonight, Earl scampered up to a high branch and picked one for himself. So thank you so much for joining me for the very first story of 2020. This particular story, Earl the Squirrel, has the author Dan Freeman, and Dan Freeman also wrote Corduroy, which is also a fantastic story. Whether you've read it or it's a great book to maybe put on your to-read list, it's absolutely beautiful. And I personally love a very vivid, vibrant picture, but there is something beautiful in the simplicity of these pictures, especially when he uses the color red to really make an impact in the story. I appreciate you guys tuning in today for Jen's Voice for You. Again, the very first of 2020, and there will be many more. I hope that if you haven't subscribed, please feel free to do so below. And if you do subscribe, that's great because then you won't miss anything. And then if you want to do some extension activities that might correlate with this story, just go to my website at JensVoiceForYou.com and you can look up some ideas to share just extra time with your kiddos that has to do with this story. I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to many, many good books in 2020. And if you ever want to recommend a book to me, you can either put it in the comments down on YouTube, or you can follow me on JensVoiceForYou.com. You can subscribe on my website and put any comment that you'd like in there as well. Thank you so much. Have a great day.